All right, let's get into it. In our series today, we have been talking since the beginning of the year here at the church, and this will just kind of bring you up to tell you what kind of church it is. If you say, I've been looking for something, I know you have, because you cannot, once you start to get a glimpse of God, the truer truth, you cannot hang around in that false. Um, uh, you can't abide it. But uh, we've been talking about since January a sermon series. This is part 29, believe it or not, of what about your funeral, and talking about the end of our lives and reverse engineering now from the end of our lives backward. How do we want to be remembered? What legacy do we want to leave behind? And Are we good? Are we okay? Okay, good. Uh, just sorry, we're checking technical issue. Give me just 1 second. Um, okay, so we're good. Okay. Um, so what legacy do we want to leave behind? And of course, the legacy you leave is tied to the life you live, and the life you live has a series of questions about your soul and about your striving and about your seasons and all these different things. And we've been hanging out here talking about our supernatural legacy that's important to leave behind a legacy of my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, my cousin, my friend, was a person that walked with God, a person that knew God, a person that may not have been worldly or earthly or marquee famous, but was certainly famous in the spirit. I heard a man say a long time ago that the shadow they cast in heaven was far larger than the shadow they cast in the earth, or the shadow they cast in the spirit and in spiritual things was larger than their footprint or reputation on earth. And so, dealing in the preciousness of that idea, how would I leave to my friends and family? How would I want to be remembered? I was just watching a clip from Dr. King's funeral the other day, and he was saying, I don't want to be remembered. He said, please, at my funeral, and this is like literally, I think, the last sermon before he died. We always get the, hey, Linda, hey, everybody. Hey, Maurice. Hey, Marcus. So we've got everybody coming on today. Uh, um, uh, this is cool. Anyway, I get somebody say, why are you in the comments? Because I just like to see people that are out there. I'm just staring at a camera, not knowing anybody's there. So it's nice to see folks every now and then. Anyway, Dr. King was saying that he said, please, at my funeral, no one mention my Nobel Peace Prize. No one mention the crowds or the speeches. No one mention my degree or my education. He said, the only thing I want mentioned is that I tried to feed the poor. I tried to clothe those who were naked. I tried to uh, 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 bring comfort to the sick. And that legacy, what he's talking about, is what I want to be remembered for. And I think out of that, the love you live is rooted in your relationship with God, is rooted in your relationship with the Spirit, not your relationship with false weaponized religion. Let it be said above all things that I chose the right God and the right belief system before time ran out and I didn't have a chair when I died. That is all things that pull us away from God, all things that pull us away from Christ. But the true religion points us to, let me be remembered as a person of love. Let me be remembered as a person who actively embodied dignity and compassion in the world. And that comes out of that connection to the Spirit, that living that spiritual life. And so we've been talking about that. What is that supernatural legacy? Now, I'll tell you a plot twist, and here at the church, I hope you understand this. When I was listening to Dr. King's final message, I thought of Jesus' final message to his disciples about the end times. In Matthew 25, he said, when God sits on the throne of judgment in the world, he's not going to separate the Jew from the Muslim, or the Muslim from the Christian, or the Christian from the Buddhist, or the Buddhist from the Hindu, or the Hindu from the atheist. Jesus taught, he said, everybody up here with these temples and sacrifices and who's got to die and how to get the angry God to chill out. He said, all of that is nonsense. He said, God's really going to separate the whole world into two groups. Group one saw their fellow human beings and responded compassionately towards them, sought to live a life to offset their need, to offset their indignity, to offset their injustice, that my life would be an embodiment of that offset, right? That's one group. And then the other group, Jesus said, would be those that did not live their lives with an aim to offset that inequity, to offset that suffering, to offset that lack. And heaven and hell, according to Jesus' teaching, was not, did you believe this, or did you confess this, or did you get washed in this? All of those things he died in repudiation of. And when I was listening to Dr. King's funeral service, where they played a clip of his own eulogy at his own funeral, I couldn't help but think, my God, Jesus and Martin Luther King, both assassinated for the same message, both assassinated by the same group of people, both assassinated to protect the same false systems of power. And the beat goes on. And so we talk about our legacy. We talk about our life. We talk about what we want to leave behind. And we want to leave behind that legacy of supernatural life, a person that knew God, a person that walked with God. And leaving that supernatural legacy is fed into by living a supernatural life. Living a supernatural life is fed into by walking in the Spirit. And to walk in the Spirit, there are things to understand. And we've been talking about that as elements now, 21 different elements of the supernatural life. And it is that I want to bring you farther into. And we've really arrived at an uncomfortable place for most people. And it's talking about our relationship to material things. It's talking about our relationship to the material world. It's talking about our relationship to money and whether or not we dance to the tune of money. We looked last week at Matthew, the 6th chapter, the 24th verse. No man, Jesus teaching, can serve two masters. Nobody can have two bosses. For you're going to hate one and love the other. You're going to hold the one and despise the other. You cannot serve. You cannot obey God. And he uses the word mammon. And of course, the word mammon is this material system. It's the false promise of material stability. It's the false promise of material blessings. All the things that we're talking about the deceitfulness of riches, and the things Solomon wrote of on how riches grow wings and fly away, and about putting our trust in material things. I was talking to my kids last night, good morning, JJ. Thank you for being on. I was talking to my kids last night about this kind of trust that we have to have in this world, this dangerous world that we live in. That every time you get in a car, you say, well, I'm trusting the seatbelt, I'm trusting the tires, I'm trusting this, and that's all great, but you have to have a trust beyond, right? What are you trusting? I got tires, I got seatbelts, I got this, but I'm also trusting that somebody's not coming across that middle line. When you go in, we just went to our annual physical, and you get your blood test, and you walk in and say, what if the blood test says this? What if the blood test says that? I'm always trusting in the beyond. And Jesus, spiritual discipleship for the people that followed him then and now, for the people that follow the Spirit of Jesus, that same Spirit of God, that same truer truth, the same larger truth, there is an ongoing process. Good morning, Joy. There's an ongoing process of renewing and detaching and disconnecting ourselves from the false promise of stability, the false promises of security that come from these natural resources. Now, Pastor, are you saying money is not important? I'm not saying that money is not important. But I am saying that we cannot live our lives in service of the flow of money. Good morning. Good morning. Mr. Rostad is on today. Good morning. We cannot live our lives in accordance to the flow of money and the flow of the Spirit at the same time. You know, when you're a little kid, you think about dividing mom and dad. There was just things I knew to ask mom and things I knew to ask dad. There were things that I knew not only who to ask, I knew when to ask. Good morning, Thomas, new to the church. Happy to be here, too. Good morning. Welcome. More Christ, less Christianity. That's what we're trying to bring out. So I'm glad. Stick around for a little bit, Thomas. I think this will be a blessing to you. But you know who to go to. And then parents get in division. Well, why would you tell her yes? Why would you tell him no? Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with going. I don't think she's fine the way she's dressed. He can't go out there looking like that. Get a haircut. I mean, parents are divided. And Jesus teaching his disciples, bringing his disciples along, in this moving them right from being people whose lives were seated and anchored in this material world, and re-anchoring them in the spirit reality, to flow with the higher flow, if you would. His teaching included the idea that one day, if you say God is your mama and money is your daddy, there will be a division. There are things that money will prompt you to, music that money and opportunity and material false promises of security will promise to you and prophesy to you. There's a tune it will give you and ask you to dance, and the Spirit of God will say, don't dance to that tune. So Jesus, very much like we talked about last week with the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off. I don't understand what's happening here. Wax on, paint the fence, right? Sand the floor, what am I doing here? There's spiritual muscles that are being developed. There's a training, not only a teaching, but a training that's working something in Daniel's son, right? That's prepared. I think I'm there. Should I still be on? Yeah, I think I had a disconnect there. Uh, Okay, I'm back on. Okay, that was weird. I just got disconnected. Don't disconnect. Stay in here. So this idea of Jesus is going to work in them. Well, why do we have to give up all our stuff? Peter said this doesn't make any sense. Why do we have to leave our business? Why do we have to leave this? Because there's something I want to work in you. There's something I want to engineer in you. There's something that's going to be formed in you when I can get you to detach from this material world. When they get to the multitude, and he wants to feed the multitude, and there's only 5 loaves and there's only 2 fishes. And what did the disciples say? Well, the resources on hand, there's no way these resources could ever satisfy this need. And Jesus said, see, you keep thinking that you have 5 loaves, and that's not, bring it to me. What was he trying to teach them? That you cannot anchor yourself and limit yourself in this to the dictates of the material world. I was thinking the other day of a time in my life when I was very resource deprived and working a couple of jobs and just trying to put it together, and driving on a car, what my dad would say, had Maypop tires on it. And somebody said, what's a Maypop tire? You're on Maypop tires. I said, what's a Maypop tire? He said, they may pop at any time. So bald the tires needed a comb over, right? I mean, it was one of those things. Could you put the penny test and see if they got any tread? Man, there was no tread. You put the penny test, you're going to be rubbing metal, right? The little bristles are coming out. And I remember, praying prayers, Lord, stretch my gas, stretch my gas, or you be out there and say, man, if I break down out here, I got no phone, man, if a tire pops out here, where's your spare? It was one of the 4 on the tire. The donut was the 4th man in the fire. And back when there was cars, somebody said cars have manuals. I'm talking about, I was driving a car with instructions. Somebody said, what's the difference between a car with a manual and a car with instructions? A car with a manual, you got a nice book and you look and it tells you everything is. What's a car with instructions? That's what's not in the manual. That's the car's personality. That's when you say, hey, man, can I borrow your car? You say, but don't lock it because I can't get it undone. Or you got to go out the passenger side. Or, man, don't roll the window down. You'll never get it back up. Or, hey, when you get to the stoplight, it's going to sound like it's cutting out on you. Keep your foot on the brake and keep the gas. And it'll say it's running hot, but it's not. Where are all these instructions? Don't trust the gas gauge. It always says you got 1/8 of a tank. You never have 1/8 of a tank. I was driving those type of cars. And I remember as I worked and as I was getting into business and getting into some things, and some of my education started to pay off for me, I got a new car. And I had not Maypop tires, but I had steel belted radials, right? And I remember I had a cell phone and I had a debit card, and I was going to see a family member who lived up in the mountains. And I remember being out there, and I was running low on gas, and I said, no problem. I usually pray, angels stretch my gas, because I didn't have any money. Just get me there. Just don't let it conk out on me. And I mean, I've had those miracle days where it conks out right as you're coasting into the gas, it's right at the pump. And in that time of lack, right, all my dependence was on God. All my dependence was on the way maker. But I had this thing, and I was going out of town, and I left work late, and I was driving up through the mountains and these little, very narrow roads, and you might go off the edge of the road and blah, blah, blah. And I got up there, and I said, I need to stop for gas, and the gas station was closed. And my cell phone wouldn't work because I was too high up in the thing. And I'm watching my gas, and it had said empty, and the empty light had been on. And I had a debit card, and my debit card wasn't activated. And I went to the ATM, I said, I'll get cash, and they weren't. And so now all of a sudden, having the cash in the bank, having the card, having the tires, having the ability to get gas, and I was out there just as exposed as I was when I had my Maypop tires and when I had no gas and needed the angels. What is the point? Jesus tries to engineer in his disciples, listen, I'm having you wax on. I'm having you paint the fence. I'm having you sand the floor by teaching you and training you on this material stuff so that you will not seat yourself in the deceitfulness of riches and in its false promise. I'm doing okay. I'm making $20,000 a month. That's plenty. Well, it's not plenty if all of a sudden somebody needs special care and you got to get in a home or a program that takes 35 a month. Now all of a sudden where you rested is insufficient for the need. And he's trying to get you to get over to, I don't want you to rest in insufficiency or the promised sufficiency of resources. I want you to rest in that heavenly supply. And this now is the teaching of Jesus. And you're not going to move forward in your relationship with God, in your growth in the life of the Spirit until you cover this truth. Let's move forward here a little bit. You cannot flow in the interest of money and the Spirit at the same time. At a certain point, conflict is sure to arise. And when the Spirit of God says this is the move, and mammon or money or resources or opportunity says no, this is a chance for gain or a threat of loss. This is no, this is the move. You cannot flow with God, and you cannot flow with that mammon at the same time. And if your life always moves and shifts and is based around what's the bigger, better deal, well, why are we at this job? There's only really one question why you're at this job. I'm at this job because I need the money. Well, that's good, and I understand that. Man, I've been there before. I only do this because I need the money. And sometimes, but really what you should do is you should say, I'm at this job because I believe for this season, this is where the mind of God is for me to be. I'm at this job because for right now, the flow of God. Somebody say, your job is crappy. Why don't you leave it? Because for this season, I feel like I don't know why I'm supposed to be there. Or, well, there's another opportunity over here. Why don't you apply? I don't know if that's what I'm supposed to. It's more money. What do you mean you don't know what it's supposed to be? It's a $20,000 a year raise. What do you mean you don't know what it's supposed to be? Because I don't live by the opportunity of money. That's not my flow. That's the lower flow. Well, why'd you take this job? Well, it was offering me this. Why'd you take that job? That's vacation. Why'd you leave this job? Because they weren't paying me enough. And you're constantly shifting your life around by what money says, by what resources says. You're gonna flow in the lower flow. But if you anchor yourself in the Spirit, you'll flow in the higher world. Now, in your notes, as people of the Spirit, as people who say, I want to live this supernatural life, and I guess you're out there. I can't really. I guess they're still out. Okay. As people who live this spiritual life, in your notes here, you must accept that it is the nature of this world to interact with people whose God is money. That's a big thing. That it's the nature of what we do. If as a person of the Spirit, you've got to accept that if you live in this world, you are going to be dealing with people that money is their God. And it's very strange when you're a person of the Spirit, money is not my God. I don't always move about money. I'd rather you be whole and us have peace than to get an extra $5 out of it. It can be a shock to the system when you deal with people for whom money is everything to them. Their anger is based on money. Their mood is based on money. Their drive is based on money. Their motivation is based on money. The relationship itself is based on money. If we're good on the money, we're good. How many people do you know fall out over $20, fall out over $2,500, fall out over $10,000? You know, my brother borrowed $10,000 from me back in 1981, and that blankety blank never paid me back. And what are you saying? That money has usurped the relationship. Some say, well, I don't know, $10,000. Like guys, what Big Worm said, there's principalities in this thing. Smokey, it's the principality of the matter. I feel disrespected. No, it's money. And somebody says, I don't take disrespect. Then you're not ready to walk in the Spirit. Then there's another whole lesson of Jesus' spiritual teaching school about turning the other cheek and about not responding eye for an eye. I mean, all of this is designed to get us out of this wretchedness of this Babylon system, the wretchedness of the get even system, the wretchedness of you do me right, I do you right, you do me wrong, I do you wrong. You know, a guy told me not too long ago. He says I put out in the universe what you give me respect, I give you respect, and boy, that sounds so noble. But in the natural world, I'm sure that works logically, but that's not what Christ would teach you at all. Christ would teach you they give you disrespect, you double bless. And you double sow that seed of kindness and wisdom. People of the Spirit, you're going to have to accept. You're dealing with people many times whose God is money, and that relationship, my relationship with people whose God is money. Listen, just as just as me as a believer, I can't dance to what money says and what God says at the same time. When it comes to getting down with relationships, I have a hard time being in a relationship with people when I'm sitting here saying, well, what is the mind of God on this matter? And somebody else is saying, well, how much money can we get, or how much money is it going to cost? I find that my fellowship is limited. I find that I do much better with people who money is not their God. Um, I don't get offended over the check. I don't get offended if your jalapeno poppers ended up on my bill, and I ain't gonna do that next time with him. He paid with a credit card, and he tried to get his bill. He's just trying to get his points. Don't you let Jimmy pay, because then he's gonna pay and have you pay back because he's just trying to get his Delta points up. I can't even spell that kind of thing. That's a level of pettiness, a level of money-mindedness that I can't. Man, I'll buy your bleeping and bleeping jalapeno poppers, and I'll buy the dinner, and I'll put on your credit card points. I will never sit in a situation where I'm trying to out-angle you on what the money says. I don't even know what that is. My wife's over here nodding. There is never a scenario in which I will try to see where I'm going to do at the table and who did me wrong, and I didn't pay for that Pepsi blankety blank. I only ate one of them. I only ate one of the bacon wrapped fillets. He ate 6 of them, and we're going to take all $9.99 divided by 1 to 6. I thought we were splitting it. Well, we were splitting it, but I had 1 and you had 8. I can't even spell that level of of low flow. Why? Well, I've been in the school of the Spirit. I've detached from mammon, and I get along best. I flow best. In your notes, there's only so much we can have in common with someone if at the end of the day, your ups and downs, only so much I can have in common with you. If at the end of the day, your ups and downs, or your connection and disconnection, if your motivation, if you're rejoicing and you're mourning, if they're all rooted and focused on material things, there's only so far we can get along. And I'll nod and smile and this and that. I don't even know how to be a blessing to you. Why? Because I'd be a blessing to you, and you talk about, well, I guess I owe you. You don't owe me. No. Listen, I don't want to be in debt to you. Who operates? And you know what it is? Well, a guy told me one time, well, I said, well, I'll pick up the bill. I'll pick up the tab. I'll pick up the bill. And he said, I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to do that. Why don't you want me to do that? Well, I got more money. I'm making $90,000 this long. I'm making $90,000 a year, and I'm out with people making. One guy's making 60. He's got a wife and kids. I mean, this is 30 years ago when 60 could get you with a wife and kids or whatever. So need about 180 now, I guess. Thanks, Nixon. I don't know who we're blaming nowadays. We just got to blame somebody, right? Thanks, Carter. Carter passed on, right? We can blame him. And the guy kept saying, well, I don't want you. We drive through the drive-through. I say, yeah, this and that, and Burger King, number 2, number 1, number 2. And I give him, no, don't want you to give me your card. Don't want you to give me your card. Why? I'll pay you back. And I said, what is this? Where's this? And he said, well, I just don't want you to look up one day and you look at all the takers around you and you realize that everybody was just around you to take, and I don't want you to look at me and say, he was one of the takers, so I'd like to carry my load. Well, on one hand, I appreciate that. That's honorable, and I thank you for saying that. On the other hand, I want to make sure you don't think I'm looking at you like you might be looking at someone else. Because the thought had never crossed my mind. Like in As Good as It Gets, right? Where the hey, Lindsay, where As Good as It Gets, where the lady said to Jack Nicholson, she said, aren't you afraid somebody's going to steal your dog? He said, well, not until you said something. I hadn't even thought of that until you said something. I was sitting there talking about earlier about, well, you're trusting God in the car unless somebody comes across the middle lane. Somebody's like, I never thought about somebody coming across the middle. I'm not trying to freak you out. It's just the world that we live in. Put your angels out. Trust God. You do it every time you get behind the wheel. Somebody said, well, I just don't want you looking at me like I'm a taker. I hadn't even thought anybody would ever look at somebody like that until I don't bless anybody looking at them saying, well, there they go again, looking my hand out. Every time I do anything anywhere, I only do it because of how blessed I see myself as. I see myself as a recipient of great goodness from the flow of God. And out of that great goodness, I just think it's my responsibility to just be a blessing to wherever I am. I cannot even spell it. So my connection can only go so far. You don't have to have this in your notes, but I had a good friend of mine. He's passed on too. Maybe we can blame him. No, we're not blaming him. He's a good man. And he was a good old boy and just he's a shrewd business guy, but he was also just heart. He's a big old man. His heart was he's a big guy. His heart was 10 times bigger than he was. And he was from Okeechobee. Okeechobee used to tell me. And he would say, Pastor, he said, Pastor, he said, uh, he said, I find I've been doing business a long time. He says, I can't do business too good with a guy who doesn't know what it's like to wake up on Friday sweating payroll. He said, if a guy's got so much money that he doesn't know what it's like to sweat payroll and to figure out how he's going to pay his people, he said, I find I don't really do business. And I said, well, my friend, if you do good business with somebody that wakes up on Friday sweating how to make payroll, then you and I are going to get along just fine. And we did. He was a saint of God. And somebody said, what do you mean? Listen, payroll has two different things. When you're an employee, you wake on Thursday like, whoo, it's payday. When you're running the company, you look on the counter Thursday. Oh God, it's payday. I mean, it's two different things, And it's not me. I got so much money in my business. Well, then good for you. Can I tell you what? If you got so much money coming in that you never have to sweat payroll, give everybody a raise. Ain't no big deal for me. I got so much money, I make payroll and everything about it. Then everybody should have the biggest, fattest Christmas. Them and their mama and their cousin. The cousins should all have health insurance. You should be putting in 401ks and 403bs and this and that. I mean, everybody should be so laden and loading down. You should be the number one place to work in your entire county. Why? Because if you're not sitting there stretching to see how am I going to get the resources to pay the laborer, you're obviously not paying them. And I'm not saying put yourself in a burden, but I'm saying when you see payroll coming down, you say, well, thank God we got it. And you tell every employee on your thing, today we are grateful to God that we are able to pay this, that you're going to take the checks. Now, this is a long time ago. You're going to take the checks to the bank and they're going to cash. Now, there might be a day you take the checks to the bank and they are not going to cash and, this and that. But today, thank God. Why? Because you're working here. I want you grateful to God for the daily supply, just like I don't want you to take it for granted. Well, they just magically bring in money out of nowhere. That's not, anybody knows a business knows it doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes because things flow together, a lot of favor, a lot of luck, a lot of goodwill, a lot of good chance, and a lot of hard work and excellent customer service. And if we do that just right, there might be enough at the end of the day to throw an extra 20 in your envelope when you go home. So I get along real well with people that know that tension. And I get along real well with people that money isn't their God. I get along real well with that. Why? Because neither one of us is sitting there working an angle. Neither one of us is keeping score. Let's move on here a little bit further. So, are you out there? Are you getting anything out of this? Let me see here. What's going on? Yeah, I see people on there. Okay, good. All right, let's keep moving along. Footloose and fancy free. We talked last week about respecting seed and its enduring value. The generosity, intentional generosity, is a seed. Whoever wrote Corinthians, maybe Paul wrote it. I don't know if Paul wrote it. Somebody wrote it in Paul's name. Somehow it was passed down, and they said, look, we're getting ready to do a collection here for some folks that are in need, and I want you to approach this collection like a farmer putting seed in the field. What? Two things. That when you put the seed in the field, do it with intention. Intention of what? That there will be a return on this. Proverbs says that the world of the generous gets larger and larger, but the world of the stingy gets smaller and smaller. And you might be able to read that however you want. I'll just take it on the simple thing that the inner life of the generous person gets larger and larger. Oh, that's true. The inner life. My grandmother, my dad was just telling me a story the other day about my grandmother. She was in the nursing home, and man, she was just doing her thing there. And he said, Mike, he said, she had these pair of shoes and they were just run over. And he said, your mom and I went up to Bell's right up the street here. And we bought her 6 pairs of shoes. Her favorite shoes, real comfy, whatever those little, I don't know, those real super spongy. They almost look like nurses' shoes, right? And just real, good for grandma's feet. And he said, we bought her 6 pair because grandma was a fashionista. And she liked to dress up and her hair done every day and blah, blah, blah. And he said, Mike, we came. He said we brought him to her on a Saturday. He said, a Friday. He said we came to see her Monday. She had one pair of shoes in her closet. They said, Mom, what did you do with the shoes? She said, well, Ma needed a pair, and Fran needed a pair, and her daughter. And she said, I just gave them away. And that was her. I mean, if she had $5, you were going to get four of it. That was her. Somebody say, well, she didn't really have anything. No, she didn't. When she died, they split up all of her belongings. I think I got a baggie. I literally have a Ziploc baggie. I think it's got her driver's license and a broken pair of glasses. That's all she had. Well, somebody said, it doesn't sound like her generosity paid off. Oh, she was a rich woman. She was a rich woman. She was a rich woman. In this series, we've been talking about kind of two things coming together, and I hope you're out there catching what I'm saying. In the series, we've been talking about two things coming together at one time. Number one, acknowledging your miracles. I want you to verbalize your wins. Sometimes the only thing we give verbalization to is our setbacks. The only thing we offer commentary on is what didn't work out, and we're in a transgression against the flow of the Spirit by simply not verbalizing and giving testimony, giving articulation to our wins. Well, this didn't happen, and they didn't call, and that didn't. Can you believe that? I thought I was getting this job. Can you believe that? I did this thing, and I put this out, and only got people. Only 8 people watched my sermon, and we got days and hours to tell you how bad things are going. That's not something people of the Spirit do. I'm now trying to acknowledge my miracles. I find that I find that it takes very little intention to uncork my brain, my soul, my pain, my discomfort, and my mouth to let go and to just open that fountain up. And man, I got 30 minutes. And sometimes I think Connie rides in the car with me. She says, "This man, I think he's the most miserable man." And sometimes I think I have I feel like Professor Clump, in Nutty Professor Eddie Murphy, the great, brilliant genius Eddie Murphy. And I know there was another genius, did his what's his name? Jerry Lewis did the first one. But at the end of Nutty Professor, when Buddy Love and Sherman Clump are fighting, it's like Tinkerbell, and it's hitting them in the face. It says blubber button, and I feel like sometimes I'll be sitting in the car with Connie talking, and I can't believe this, and I can't believe this, and it did this, and this is coming as that, and I thought that was going to happen, and then right in the middle of it, I say, but God is so faithful, He's taking care of us, and I just give God praise because the whole thing could have come around a little bit, but this doesn't make any sense, and I feel like I'm fighting inside. What is it? It's the large self, right? It's the higher self. It's the higher flow trying to get out and to acknowledge the thing that is flowing in our direction, and that low self that just wants to give detailed, granular commentary on what's not working out. Acknowledge our miracles. Acknowledge. Say it. Say it. Tell everybody. Jules, right? What did he say? He said, I'm not going anywhere unless you acknowledge this is a miracle. A miracle? No, it's a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. It's a miracle. And he said, is it according to Hoyle, definition of a miracle? No, but I want you to acknowledge that what happened here could have gone totally different. And sometimes I feel like the Spirit of God, I feel like the higher flow, it just wants us to acknowledge here that what's happening is happening against what is the norm. That certainly there is suffering. That if there's a midline, sometimes we suffer in an outsized manner, and we're all quick to give our discomfort articulation, to give voice to that. But I'm saying when there's a good part that goes out, when it goes above expectation, you have to acknowledge that thing. Somebody said, "Why are you yelling?" I don't know. So in a time of great difficulty, in a season of great setback and loss, in a season of great tightness and constraint, I feel like the writer of Corinthians, outside or fightings, inside were fears. I was thinking the other day, he said, man, we were shipwrecked. uh, uh, down and out, betrayed, bereft, hungry, robbed. And he says, but we finally figured out the answer, which is we got to stop trusting in our capacity, like we talked about in the spirit. Revel in the power-backed powerlessness that you have. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. What did they say in Second Chronicles? Now, whether the story happened in the Hebrew Scriptures is true or not, it doesn't matter if it's true. The story of it is true enough. It doesn't have to be historically accurate. It doesn't have to be factually accurate. It is spiritually true to the human condition. What? They were surrounded by a circumstance that was larger than them, and they said, God, we have no power or might to stop this. There's nothing in our resource pack that can prevent this. Neither know we what to do, but our eyes are upon you. I think that serves as well. And in the middle of that trial, in the middle of my own personal things that I got going on, my family things that I got going on, I have put my foot in and said, I feel like Luke and is it Luke? Who's in the trash compactor? Is Chewie in there? And the trash compactor starts going on. And as I watch the trash compactor squeeze in, I'm not going to blame, aim, cry, whine. I'm going to stand there in defiance of that closing in wall and say, I acknowledge the supernatural carrying hand of God. The second thing is acknowledging your miracles. And the second one is remembering your seed. While you're acknowledging the sustaining good hand of God that has kept you to this point, don't forget to remember, I have seed in the ground. I have seed in the ground. I have sown. I have released generosity. I have, Connie and I, we were talking about the other day, we were sitting in the car and turned from, Lumberbutt, Tinkerbell, we were going back and forth, God hates us, no, God loves us, and that's just what we do because we're human. I mean, think of Jesus, right? Oh, God, why have you forsaken me? Oh, Father, I fall for myself. I mean, you just go back and forth. What did he say in Matthew 26? I'm so stressed and depressed, I feel like I'm going to die. I mean, you can't say those words. That's against faith. Jesus, I'm just telling you what it is. And then what's he come out and what's he come out and well, no, you know what, it's all right. God, I'm yielding. If they're going to come and kill me for teaching what I'm teaching, if they're going to come after me like they came out of Martin and after, same people came after Martin, same people came after Jesus, same people came after Malcolm for the same reason. What? They woke up one day and said, it's not divided, it's larger than you ever seen, and we've been lied to by the weaponized religion. And what do those principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness of this world say? Time for the dispatch. And Jesus out there hiding in the woods, and he knows they're coming after him. So, Connie and I were talking in the car the other day, and instead of articulating the tightness of our circumstance, instead of giving voice, seed conscious and harvest minded. I love that, Larry. That's true. We're always seed conscious and harvest minded. It's so great when people preach the stuff back and it stirs me up. I mean, I said that seed conscious harvest minded thing over a decade, 15 years ago. And somebody just like, man, this is what you talk. And it stirs you up, right? You remember, I was on a flight from Dallas one time and turbulence hit that plane and I've flown all over the world. Turbulence hit that plane. We were going up and down. Cokes were flying. People were screaming. Pearls were clutched. And the flight attendant fell on the ground, grabbed the base of the seat next to my feet in the middle of turbulence, yelled out, "Oh my God, we're all going to die!" And I thought, ma'am, remember your training. That is not. I'm quite sure that's not in the manual. And I've read both versions of the flight safety thing. I've seen the Paper Street Soap Company version, and I've seen the Delta version. And in no place was the flight attendant on the ground saying we were going to die. But Connie and I not only started to acknowledge our miracles in the car, we started remembering our seed. Recalling. Recall? Call it to mind. Now, wait a minute now. She says, Mike, do you know how many people's rents we've paid? Do you know how many people we kept in their house? Do you know how many pastors that had lost their church or retired or whatever, and we just reached out to them in silence and sent them a year or two or three just to keep the. She said, and what are you doing now? You're. Somebody say, well, you don't believe in karma. I don't believe in karma. Well, you do bad, you get. I don't believe in that. I believe there's enough suffering and chaos in this world that all of us are sharing in it at all time. Some of our brothers and sisters right now are really hurting with it, and we're, no matter how good our lives are, it's never going to be so good that we're detached from the feelings and the fellowship of their sufferings. And no matter how low our lives are, we're never going to put ourselves at the sin of all suffering. At sometimes we're all moving a pool table of suffering, and at sometimes somebody's got, we got all the weight, and anybody carrying it, and then other times we just got two pinkies on it and it's floating. That's how life works. But I do believe that we can release good and rebellious resistance to the shared suffering, and that when releasing of this good, even if nothing else, we can share a little. Take a little bit that we have and share it. Why? Because we're not sharing, we're depositing a seed. And Connie and I recalled our seed. We began to recall all the times we had when we had abundance. We recalled carrying our greater weight of the pool table. When we had very little, she began to preach back to me. And you remember this, when we didn't have this and nobody even knew, and they didn't even realize we were the ones that were doing. And you start to remember, you start to acknowledge your miracles, and you start to remember the seed you have in the ground. And you may have forgotten it. Man, when she started bringing it back to me, some of that stuff, I forgot all the stuff. I forgot. Wait, that is true. That is true. That is true. I had forgotten. Oh, my God, thank you. And I realized a long time ago that we may forget the seed. Listen to me. The flow never does. The flow. What do you mean the flow? You mean God doesn't forget? He said, I don't know if God's sitting out there going, you get a harvest, and you get a harvest, pew, pew, pew. I don't know if he's got, and I don't think that's how God works. I'm talking about the flow of the Spirit, the higher flow. That there's a plane and a dimension that you could walk in and could aim your expectation to. And if all you can do is say, well, what does the material say? What does the money say? I mean, if you start thinking in your mind, if you here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to say, man, if I had back everything I'd ever given away, I wouldn't be in this situation. If you had back everything, every seed you put in the ground, you have no idea how that would affect the entire horizon of your miracle horizon that you've been walking in. We are getting nowhere. We're on number 22. I was trying to get you to 28 today, and we're on 22. You may forget, the flow does not. Let me teach you about seed. This is what I've been imparting to my children. This will be a good one for you. My children are entering the working world, and this will be a good thing for you. Establish your value, then live charitably. You can't really, there is no charity unless you establish your value. Well, Dad, Olivia says, well, I got a client, and they're wanting this, and they want to know my rates on this and that, and I'm trying to work with them on this because I know that. That's fine. State your value. What is your value? Well, my charge for this is $100 an hour. That's your value. Yeah, but Dad, I can't charge her that she's a single mom. She got this. That's okay. Now, sow your seed. Say, well, I charge $100 an hour to do this. Oh, I can't. No, it's fine. I'm gonna do it for you for $35. Would you do that? Now you've taken, instead of, well, I lowered my price. No, you didn't. You stated your value. You established the value. Now you're walking in love. Establish your value. These companies used to call me up. Now, we want you to come teach on this. We want you to come do that and this and that. How much would you charge? And I said, well, I'm on a mission. I don't charge anything, just whatever, And that works when you have people of the Spirit, but people of the flow of mammon, they don't. What are you talking about? It took me a while to learn, because I just want to be a blessing to everybody. God takes care of me. I just want to be a blessing to everybody. I'm not going to give you a price. Now I say, somebody says, well, we'd like you to come in and talk for an hour. Now, churches and things, they don't ask me to come in anymore. Since I moved to more Christ, less Christianity, it's decidedly less. Someone said, well, what's the number gone down to? 0.5. 0.5 churches. 5 churches? No. Half a church. Well, now it's, well, how much would you charge to come in and do how much would you charge to come in and do a Sunday service for us? I've never been at, how much would I charge? I don't have it. Now, you ask me now, well, Sunday service, how long is the service? Well, we want you to preach about an hour. Well, that'd be about $150,000 for me to come talk for an hour. I tell you what, I'll do it for you. Y'all got a Dr. Pepper. I'll do it for you for a Dr. Pepper. Well, we don't. We got a Dr. Pepper and we got a Cracker Barrel. How about this, Dr. Pepper? You take me to Dr. Pepper. You take me to Cracker Barrel afterwards. Somebody said, "Would you really go preach for a Dr. Pepper and a Cracker Barrel?" I'll go anywhere the Spirit. You know how many times I preach for a Dr. Pepper and a Cracker Barrel or less. I go wherever the Spirit of God leads me to go. I've never said because money is not. I've never said, well, I'm not going down there. There's no money in it. The number of places I've gone all over the world, put $100 in gas, $100 in travel, $200 in a hotel room, stayed for 3 days, and walked out. And they said, well, we can't really do anything for you. And I said, I didn't come down here because you could do something for me. I came down here because I felt like that's where the flow was. Well, were you upset about it? Why would I be upset about something like that? But from now on, I've decided I established my value. Well, I'd like to come meet with you about my business. I'd like to take you to lunch, meet with me about my business. That's $1,000, 1 hour. I charge for $1,000, 1 hour. I remember my mom back in the 80s. She would charge somebody, well, I'd like to come down and sit with you and have you talk about my business. This is back in the 80s. She said she'd charge $10,000 to come sit down and talk to you about your business. $10,000 for an hour. That's what I charge. Now, $10,000 right now would be like $40,000. Somebody said, well, that's ridiculous. Well, that's my value. And if I want to do something different than that, then that's on me to choose to do something different than that. But I'm not going to let what you're able to pay be my value. I'm going to make that a seed. The difference. Well, Pastor, it's a startup business. I can't pay $1,000 an hour. I'll tell you what. You buy the coffee. I'll come down there. Oh, you said it was $1,000 an hour. Well, you just buy my coffee. What kind of coffee you want? Just a little black coffee or whatever from Starbucks. Give me a small one. Well, $1,000. The coffee doesn't cost but $3. Well, I think that's $997. I'm sowing in your life and in your business. You have to move like that. In other words, otherwise, somebody said, "Well, he doesn't charge nothing but $3.97." That's not true. Not only that, you know, Olivia's got her company. Mike. They said, "Mikey, how much would you charge for this?" I said, "Well, do you want to work with them?" Yeah. It's for kids. Yeah. Well, do you believe in what they're doing? Yeah. Well, then tell them you charge $800, but you'll come in and do it for $4. Why? This is you now in control of being a blessing. Versus them saying, well, he only charges $400, and they go out and repeat, he'll do it for you for $400. No, I did it for you for $400. Coca-Cola is going to be a different price. Why? You establish value. Then you live charitably. How much would it cost for you to paint this house? Well, the inside and outside, it's going to be about $7,500. I do this. Now, if you want me to do your brick, it's going to be about another $4,000 or $5,000. Well, you get that money. I have gotten that money. People up in the country club, they pay that money all the time. I don't have that. Well, I didn't know. That's what I charge. But I'll tell you what I do for you. I'll tell you if you give me a little bit of time, space it out, and let me work in between my days and stuff. I'll do it for you for. Could you do $1,500? You do that for me? Yeah. I've set the value. Now I sow the seed. Golly. One more thing under this. Learn to sow your losses instead of counting them. Learn to sow your losses instead of counting them. You know, that guy never paid me. Here you are counting your losses. Do you know if I take what this guy, he didn't pay me this, and she didn't come doing that, and the person told me that, but they ended up giving us up. Do you know if you put that together, I've lost? No. You're counting your losses. Olivia said the other day, Dad, I was working for a client. She brought me over to do this, 3 hours to do that, to know my price. We have this and that, blah, 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 here or there. And do you know, I just got the payment for last month. They completely left out that extra 2 hours. Should I call them up? Well, you can call them up and say, you shorted me $50. I said, but you got to weigh out on that now. This client's been good to you. You've been good to this client. A lot of business come out of this client. You like this client. Well, yeah, it's $50. I said, well, you could look at it as, I'm not going to worry about it. Y'all shorted me $50, whatever. Or you could say, I'm going to take that $50 and sow it as a seed into them. Well, they don't know. Listen, a lot of people don't know what you're doing. Jesus talked about in his spiritual training, wax on, wax off, of paint the fence. Taught a lot about what's the stuff you makes your seed moves in silence. People don't always have to know what all you're doing. They don't even have to know that it's you that's doing it. They don't even have to know that what you've done for them is beyond what everything. They don't have to know. Well, I got the thing and she paid me. I guess I don't know. Did she forget? Well, Pastor, I can't live like that. I'm not saying you can't live like that. Some people are like, look, you can't short me 2 hours. I work for that, and that's fine. You have to deal with your reality as you deal with your reality. But in each place, if somebody's done you wrong and you can't go after them, or somebody's done you wrong and you can't say, or even if you say, hey, I just Connie and I deal with that. She deals with things where she tutors and she this and that. She said, Mike, I've gone back to this client 4 times, and I said, hey, just so you know, you left out this. She said, I tell you what, she said, I've talked to them, and she said, if we still don't see eye to eye, I'm just going to sow it as a seed. Why? Otherwise, your heart picks up on they did me wrong, and you don't have any room in the flow to lock down the flow by paying attention to who did you wrong. You just got to sow it as a seed. Yeah. Somebody said, what are you doing? I'm looking at mine to see how far I can go. I don't think I can go any farther. I don't think I can go. Were you out there? Did you get anything out of there? Let me see what. Lacey, learn to sow your loss, not count them. I like that too, Lacey. Renee, yeah. Just love you all. I'm just checking on you and seeing where you are. Amen. Amen. This is how spiritual people move. I'm just not wired like that. Well, when we get in contact with a higher flow, we get rewired. We get rewired. And it's been so long. And it becomes powerful when you build a network of people around you who all flow in that same flow. Who all go through life looking not where they can get on the take, but where they can be a blessing. What that guy just said in the comments, being seed-minded. Being seed-minded. You just walk through life saying, how can I sense opportunities to sow, to be a blessing? And I told you last week, he even said, well, I just gave a tip. I don't give tips. What's the bill? $33. Well, what's 15%? Well, that's $3,454. I don't give tips. I sow seeds. Listen, people can follow you out of a restaurant for 2 reasons. Somebody follows you out of a restaurant and says, oh, you left a mess in here. Or, I had one guy, he was a valet back before he had a revelation of this. He was a valet here in Atlanta in the 80s. And he said a guy got out of a Rolls Royce convertible, came out, got his keys at the valet stand. He said the guy gave me a 50-cent piece and drove off. He said, I flipped the 50-cent piece back in his back seat. He didn't even know it was there. I said, well, that's one way to do it, I just flipped it right back in the back of his car. But 2 people follow you out of a restaurant. Excuse me, sir, ma'am, your children left it. Excuse me, you call this. I can't believe he did this. They follow. There's another reason people follow you out of a restaurant. Excuse me. Hey, I just want to thank you for that. Hey, thank you. That was real sweet of y'all. What are they saying? What you just did here is beyond the value of what I provided for you. It is. Because what we did there was not payment. What we did there was a seed. Seed-minded. Seed-minded. That's how you live in the Spirit. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you just for being part of this today, for being part of our church service. Of course, we don't have buildings and steeples and all that kind of stuff. We want you to go out and do all that. But if what we're saying, if what we're teaching you is stretching you, if you feel like, man, I'm in this thing and it's really teaching me about, it's giving me more Christ and less Christianity. It's taking me out of the who's on the right team, going to the right place when you die. Hey, Harry, I love you so much, man. We love you. And I'll tell you what, next time we're in your way, we're going to take you up. Harry said, man, next time y'all are in town, I want to take you to Golden Corral. Where are we going? We're going Golden Corral, Cracker Barrel, where we're going. We're getting fried chicken and mashed potatoes and meatloaf. And if we go after 4, I'm going to stand in the steak line. And Harry, I thank you for it. But just thank you for all your love. You're just a sweet man. So if what we're giving is of spiritual value, if what we're pouring into you, taking you out of weaponized religion and all this false, the God of the Old Testament must be satisfied, and who's gonna deal with his anger? Oh, yeah, we'll kill Jesus. Once you get out of all that nonsense and you get down to the true revelation of the person of Christ, boy, you can start living a supernatural life and start really functioning out of true love, not out of weaponized religion. And if what we're offering is a blessing, if what we're doing, if you feel like, man, this is stretching my inside and it's changing my inside and it's affecting the way not only I see myself, but I see the world and other people are partaking of that fruit, amen, Mom, I'll take that Dr. Pepper. Then thank you for being a blessing to us. Uh, and whatever that means to you, whatever that means to you, whatever capacity, whatever you understand that to mean. Because somebody say, well, $5 means something different. $3 means something different to all sorts of people. What would you say? Man, I feel like this really, we thank you for your generosity. It means a lot to us. Somebody say, well, there you are trying to raise money. Preachers always say, I'm not trying to raise money. I want you to take all your charity and go live it out there. But I also don't want you to receive of something and not give the proper value to it. So I thank you for that. And my family thanks you for that. But beyond that, what is this church about? Well, we're trying not to build another institution, right? Nothing wrong with institutions, but institutions founded on a false foundation, founded on a false suggestion that Jesus' murder and assassination was somehow a means of appeasing an Old Testament God that's nothing like that God at all, that Jesus died trying to tell people God isn't like what you say. And he's not like what the leaders are telling you. And he doesn't want what you want. The only thing God wants you to do is see each other and respond to each other and purpose to live your life to offset the lack in each other's life and to stop allowing religion and politics to push people to the edges who God wants to bring to the middle. Well, they said, well, that's it. We're going to get you. And they got him. Judas and the Black Messiah, they got him. And here we are. We accept that through the God of the whole world, the God of everybody, red, yellow, brown, black, white, gay, straight, bi, LGBT, doesn't matter, God of Muslim, Jew, Gentile, atheist, anti-theist. There's only one love at the core and crust of the cosmos, and it is that love that compels us. We look at it through the lens of the person of Christ, not Christianity, and we say that convinces us to live large and to see suffering and to ease suffering and to move ourselves, not through the false religion of Christ, but to move ourselves through the personal, the way we've been touched and changed by the personification of God through Christ. That moves us to live a life of true religion. And that's what this church is about. And that's how we want you to go and live. Jeremy, I love you so much. Lindy, I love you so much. Renee, I love you so much. And I encourage you this week, ask God. It says at the bottom, ask God, show me how. Babby Mason, show me how to love in the true meaning of the word. Teach me to sacrifice, expecting nothing in return. Lord, I want to give my life away, becoming more like you each and every day. My words are not enough. Lord, show me how to love. Oh, if only I could sing it like she could. You make it great. You be loved this week. You be the ongoing. If we believe God came to earth dressed in human form, and we called that person Jesus of Nazareth, and God was embodied, and we believe that we are going to be the ongoing embodiment of that love in the earth, now you're approaching true religion. When you get out all the who's doing what for anyone. Yeah, I like that, Harry. There are millions out there. You say, I don't have much. Well, you can be a blessing. You can offset lack somewhere. Amen, Isaiah. Look, I love y'all. We got to go. Church is wrapping up. There's hundreds of you that are part of this church, and we thank you for your love and your support. God bless you. Make it a great week. I speak peace, health, protection, preservation, soundness, abundance, aboveness, joy on you, revelation of clarity, that you be mindful of your miracles and your seed. Seed conscious, harvest minded, that you would live a life purposing to live on the giving side. God, clarity of you. Help us disconnect from that which divides. Help us disconnect from that which obscures. And help us connect more fully with that which is true and light and love. And to embody. To as we behold, that we become. Peace on each one. In Jesus' name. I love you. My whole family loves you. Make it great. God bless you all. Hi, Tequila. Love you all so much. Janet, love you, love you, love you. We'll be here all day. God bless you. I'll see you next Sunday. If you haven't subscribed to YouTube, subscribe. We're putting all these classic sermons up. We've got podcasts, marriage podcasts coming up in a couple weeks, parenting podcasts. I don't want you to miss it. Just subscribe and it'll give you a notification. Hit the bell to give you a notification. That's it for that. Love y'all, love y'all, love y'all.